Chapter 1. For the company retreat, I had a suit custom made to match my wife Victoria Donovan's dress. But on the day of the event, Victoria showed up wearing a matching couple's outfit with her childhood flame Ethan Spencer. A friend teased me, "Looks like your wife is in love." I lowered my eyes and gave a faint smile, but a chill spread through my heart. When Victoria saw me staring at the two of them, she scolded me, telling me to be a bigger person. I nodded in agreement, then turned around and drafted the divorce papers. Because in my view, the highest form of being a bigger person is setting her free. Victoria didn't throw a fit when she received the divorce papers. A faint smile played on her lips as she casually flipped through the terms of the agreement. "Sincere, have you had enough of this tantrum? If you're done, let's go home." Her nonchalant tone and attitude nearly gave me a heart attack from the anger. Clutching my aching chest, I spoke in a relatively calm voice. "Go home to what? You're already wearing matching outfits. Is there still a place for me in that home?" Victoria's brow furrowed in annoyance. "Sincere Clark, can't you pick a better time and place to be so unreasonable? Do you want the entire staff to know about our petty issues? You were the one who promised to be the bigger person. Who are you throwing this tantrum for now?" I looked into Victoria's eyes, which no longer held any love for me, and let out a cold laugh. She had changed. I should have realized it sooner. Victoria and I had been together for 7 years. We weren't just the closest of lovers, we were the tightest of partners. Yet, after 7 years of working at the same company, very few employees knew we were married. But her childhood flame, Ethan Spencer, had only been with the company for 7 months. On his very first day, Victoria publicly announced that they were childhood friends. She was afraid he would be mistreated at the company. And tonight, she wore a matching outfit with him, in front of all the employees. She knew full well what kind of gossip it would stir up and how much it would hurt me. But she did as she pleased anyway. Since she was so blatantly biased, I figured I shouldn't hold her back any longer. "I won't embarrass you any further, Miss Donovan. I'll get out of your hair right now." I averted my gaze, intending to turn and leave, but a commotion from Ethan Spencer drew the attention of the employees who were playing games. "Mr. Clark, wait a moment. Have you misunderstood something about me?" I turned back to see Ethan standing beside Victoria with a panicked expression. "Ms. Donovan, I think Mr. Clark has misunderstood our relationship. Could you please help me explain? My mother is in the hospital and needs money. I can't lose this job at the Donovan Group." Everyone in the company knew that Victoria had deposited $5 million into his medical account to save his mother. But his feigned, pitiful act still managed to draw the crowd's ire toward me. I heard the office gossips huddled together, speaking up for Ethan. So what if he has the title of Mr. Clark? He's still just a lapdog who kowtows to our CEO. Exactly, he just throws his weight around because he's a founding member. What a bully. The words grew uglier, and I gritted my teeth, wanting to teach them a lesson. But as I took a step forward, Victoria caught my movement out of the corner of her eye and quickly waved them away. "All right, that's enough gossip. The prize draw and cash giveaways are happening on stage. Go get your bonuses." The group shot me a haughty glance before heading toward the main hall. I froze, my fist trembling. I didn't question her out loud as I would have in the past. 2. Ethan Spencer stood shoulder to shoulder with Victoria, shooting me a smug, defiant look. Rage churned in my chest. In a fit of anger, I blurted out sarcastically, "Ethan, you've got some nerve. It's a shame you're not in Hollywood. You'd win an Oscar for that performance." As soon as I finished, Ethan instantly lowered his gaze. In a voice barely louder than a whisper, he said, "Mr. Clark, you still can't stand me, can you? I'll pay back my mother's medical expenses." Before I could react, Victoria snapped harshly, "Sincere Clark, that $5 million? Consider it a gift to Ethan. If you have a problem with it, you can just swallow it with that." She put an end to the conversation. I felt like I was suffocating. I turned and walked briskly away. Outside the venue, I took off the custom-made suit jacket and tossed it into a nearby trash can. I had hoped that if I wore a matching outfit with Victoria, she would be so happy that she would finally announce our relationship. Looking back now, my little scheme was utterly ridiculous. My good friend Quentin Miller followed me out and offered me a cigarette from his pack. I was about to say, "Victoria doesn't like it when I smoke." But I swallowed the words before they could escape. I took the cigarette and cupped my hands to light it. After the white smoke filled my lungs and I slowly exhaled, I managed a wry smile. I was a real joke today, wasn't I? Quentin, with a cigarette dangling from his lips, glanced at me sideways. I thought he was going to comfort me, but instead he said, "Yeah, you were." I was stunned for a moment, then burst out into a bitter laugh. He then asked, "The pink Hummer you ordered has arrived at the dealership. Are you still giving it to her?" I leaned against a lamppost, watching the traffic flow by. Victoria had a sweet appearance, but she had a surprising love for rugged macho vehicles. However, to maintain her image as a CEO, she usually only rode in a corporate sedan. Although there were several SUVs parked in our home garage, Victoria only ever had them serviced on schedule. 6 months ago, I went with her to get one of the cars serviced. She immediately fell in love with a modified pink Hummer. The manager told us it belonged to a wealthy heir who had pulled a lot of strings to get it from a top-tier enthusiast-grade customizer. The customizer was eccentric and rarely made public appearances. It took me 3 months of digging around just to get in touch with him, and then another 3 months for him to modify and test the vehicle. It had just arrived at the dealership today. I had planned to take Victoria to pick it up after the retreat. I had replayed the look of joy on her face in my mind countless times. I had been so incredibly excited, and I was ready for her praise. But now, I said with a self-deprecating laugh, "It's yours." Quentin looked at me in shock. "You spent $5 million on it and put in so much effort, inside and out. You're really just giving it to me?" "Yeah." I took a final drag from the cigarette, turned, and went back into the venue, heading for the underground garage to get my car. But just as I started the engine, Victoria rushed over and banged angrily on my car window. I lowered it slightly and asked, "Is there something else?" Her eyes were blazing with fury. "Sincere Clark, where do you think you're running off to?" "Because of what you said, Ethan was nearly bullied by that group from the office. Get back in there and apologize to him right now." I resisted the urge to get out of the car and punch someone. Instead, I retorted mockingly, "If you have the guts, you can try to drag me back there. Otherwise, you can just stand here and stew in your impotent rage. Oh, by the way, I'll email you a digital copy of the divorce papers. If you don't sign, I'll see you in court." I rolled up the window and slammed my foot on the gas pedal. Behind me, Victoria chased the car for a couple of steps, her mouth opening and closing as she hurled insults, her face twisted with anger. 3. On the road, I called my lawyer. I told him to completely revise the terms of the divorce agreement, especially the clause splitting the company shares 70-30 in her favor. The Donovan Group was a company that Victoria and I had founded together. Its current success was the result of our joint efforts. I could overlook the fact that I had pulled more all-nighters running the business than she did in the beginning, but the Donovan Group must be split equally. I wouldn't let Victoria take 1 cent more from me than she deserved. After hearing me out, my lawyer said with relief that I had finally come to my senses. Feeling agitated, I drove to the coast to clear my head. Victoria kept calling me, but I rejected every call. It was 10 o'clock at night when I returned to our villa. The lights were all off. The retreat had ended hours ago. It didn't take a genius to figure out where Victoria had gone instead of coming home. I parked the car and walked to the 24-hour convenience store in our residential area to buy some liquor. I lay down on an outdoor stone bench, drinking alone under the moon. In my drunken haze, I thought I saw Victoria walking toward me. My mind was a mess. I was about to call out honey when I saw Ethan Spencer still by her side. I sobered up instantly, a sarcastic smile on my lips. "What, so eager to bring him home? Are you planning to kick me out tonight?" Looking closer, I saw that both of them had changed their clothes. I sneered. "Well, look at that. A change of clothes. I guess things are getting serious." Victoria stopped in front of me, rubbing her temples with displeasure. "Sincere Clark, that's enough. You threw this whole scene today just because of that matching outfit, didn't you? Ethan and I have both changed. You have no reason to keep this up, do you?" I lazily glanced at Ethan. He was wearing a tracksuit from a luxury brand and a 6-figure platinum bracelet on his wrist. I chuckled mockingly. "Mr. Spencer must be earning a good salary. That whole outfit must have cost at least $120,000 or $30,000. Ethan's face paled, and he looked to Victoria for help. Victoria gave him a reassuring look, but her expression turned icy when she faced me. "I bought it for him. Do you have a problem with that?" I lowered my eyes and smiled faintly, thinking that my entire wardrobe of cheap suits combined wasn't as expensive as what Ethan was wearing. "A problem?" I replied. "Do I even have the right to one?" I collected myself, looked up at Ethan and said seriously, "Since Miss Donovan is so generous, how about I give Mr. Spencer a grand gift as well?" Ethan looked at me suspiciously. "What?" My gaze swept over Victoria as I said calmly, "My wife, Victoria Donovan." 4. The conversation ended on a sour note. Victoria led Ethan into the villa and slammed the door shut with a bang. The night wasn't cold, but if someone sleeping off a drunk stayed outside all night, they would surely catch a cold and have a fever the next day. But Victoria couldn't care less if I lived or died, so what was the point of all these years of me pouring my heart and soul into loving her? I stared at the closed door, a man and a woman alone together in a room. In the past, I would never have been able to stay this calm, drinking under the moon. I would have stormed in and thrown my arms around Victoria to assert my claim. But now I almost hope something would happen between the two of them inside the villa. It would be even better if they put on an R-rated show right in front of me. That way I could get a larger share of the assets. Loving Victoria had already left me covered in scars. Now I truly believe that making money is a lot more satisfying than being in love. After sobering up on the bench, I staggered back to the house. I had planned to walk in and catch them in the act, but it turned out Victoria was sleeping alone in the master bedroom. I went back to the living room, planning to crash on the sofa for the night. The noise I made must have woken Victoria up. She came out, her eyes heavy with sleep, and asked, "Why aren't you sleeping in the room?" I lounged on the sofa and looked at her, waiting to catch the adulterers in the middle of the night. My words made Victoria's face darken with anger, like a storm was brewing. I settled back comfortably on the sofa. A little while later, I heard Victoria heading toward the kitchen. I was drowsy and just felt a section of the sofa dip. When I opened my eyes again, I saw her looking down at me. "Honey water, drink it." Her voice was cold, but I could see a flicker of concern in her eyes. I looked away. I didn't need this cheap display of care. I would never forget the time Ethan got drunk after a business meeting with her. She stayed by his side all night, taking care of him without a moment's rest. I remember the years when Victoria and I were most in love. I once drank until I had stomach bleeding for the company. Even then, she never stayed up all night to take care of me. Instead, she hired a nurse. Those memories were too painful to revisit. Seeing my indifference, Victoria sighed. "Sincere, I admit I've been busy with work and have neglected you lately. But can't you be a little more mature? Don't throw a tantrum over such a small thing." "A small thing?" My wife was parading around as a couple with Ethan Spencer. How was I supposed to be a bigger person about that? "Come back to the bedroom with me. We have tomorrow off. How about I take you shopping for a gift?" Victoria leaned closer, her tone coaxing. I turned my head, avoiding her kiss. "Fine," I mumbled in agreement. This divorce was non-negotiable, but I was curious to see what kind of gift a person who had never bought me anything would come up with. 5. Ethan Spencer was still there the next morning, making breakfast in the kitchen. Victoria told me, "It got too late when I took Ethan clothes shopping yesterday, so I let him stay the night." I nodded with a smile, having nothing to say about it. After breakfast, Ethan wanted to tag along, but for the first time, Victoria refused him because of me. "Ethan, you should head back." "I'll call a car for you." I stood in the entryway, waiting for them to say their goodbyes. By the time Ethan left, it was almost lunchtime. Victoria took me directly to the luxury menswear department. I thought she would help me choose, but she just sat down on a sofa and gestured with her chin toward the rows of clothes. "Sincere, go pick something out. I'm paying." I raised an eyebrow and chose the two most expensive suits to try on. But when I came out of the fitting room, Victoria was gone from the sofa. A sales associate came over with a smile. "Mr. Clark, Miss Donovan asked me to tell you that she had to leave for something urgent. You can just charge whatever you choose to her account." I nodded. After changing back, I handed the suits to her. "I'll take these two." As the associate was ringing me up, she looked at the account and said with envy, "Mr. Clark, Miss Donovan is so good to you. The points in her account are enough to redeem one of our limited edition items." I walked over to take a look and instantly burst out laughing. 680,000 points. 1 point for every dollar spent. Accumulated over the past 2 years, right up until yesterday. And this store only sold menswear, but I had never received a single gift from Victoria. It was obvious who she had been buying all these things for. I called her. It took a while for her to pick up. "Sincere, I'm sorry, Ethan's mother suddenly—" I cut her off, my voice soft. Victoria Donovan, come home now, and sign the papers. Victoria was stunned for a moment, then her voice turned sharp. Sincere Clark, what are you trying to pull now, Victoria Donovan? I said I want a divorce. I furiously kicked over the nearest rack of clothes. The clattering sound of metal hitting the floor traveled through the phone to Victoria's ears. After a moment of silence, she said flatly, "Fine, as you wish." Chapter 2. 6. Although Victoria agreed to come home immediately, I waited for her, and she didn't show up even after the sun went down. Rage grew in my heart. I called for professional organizers and movers. I had them pack up every single gift I had ever given Victoria, from the time we fell in love until now, and throw them all out. After it was all done, I looked at the empty villa and finally felt a bit better. It was 10 o'clock at night when Victoria came home. The moment she walked in, she was shocked by the scene in the villa. "Sincere Clark, did we get robbed? Where did all the things you gave me go?" I looked up at her smiling face and found it incredibly ironic. "Victoria Donovan, do you think you're being funny right now?" My voice was cold and her smile vanished. After changing her shoes, she walked slowly toward me. "It was my fault for leaving abruptly during the day. But you've had your chance to blow off steam, haven't you? You broke their display rack, and I had to pay the store $500,000 in compensation. $500,000 for your smile. I think I'm the one who got the short end of the stick here." Seeing her nonchalant attitude, I laughed out of pure anger. "Victoria Donovan, you truly never cease to amaze me." When she saw me laugh, Victoria thought I wasn't angry anymore and turned to walk toward the master bedroom. "All right, I'm exhausted after spending the whole day with Ethan taking care of his mother. I'm going to wash up and go to bed." If she hadn't mentioned Ethan, I might have let her rest. But now, I shot up from my seat and blocked her path. Grabbing her arm, I held out the divorce papers. "Sign it." Victoria frowned, about to lose her temper, but then she saw what was in my hand. She looked up with a smirk. "Sincere Clark, all the effort I put into placating you tonight was a complete waste of time, wasn't it? Are you really this ungrateful? Don't you know when to quit while you're ahead? Placating me." I shot back. "You call this placating me?" Victoria's eyes turned cold and hard. "What then? Do you think I was trying to placate a dog?" I let out a low, sarcastic laugh. "Victoria Donovan, you're shameless. Sucking up to your future mother-in-law at the hospital while refusing to let me go." A look of disbelief flashed in Victoria's eyes. "Sincere Clark, is that really what you think of me? I was just helping Ethan's family because I felt sorry for them. Is it really necessary for you to make such a big deal out of it?" Even now, Victoria was convinced that I was just throwing a tantrum. She would never reflect on her own mistakes. I was truly tired. I pushed her away, grabbed my jacket, and headed for the door. "Victoria Donovan, I've already signed the divorce papers. We'll split all the assets 50-50. I'll be back in a month to finalize the divorce with you. If you still refuse by then, we'll see each other in court." "Oh, 7. Victoria took a couple of steps after me, but the deafening slam of the door made her flinch back. I quickly got into my SUV, hit the gas, and disappeared into the night. I didn't show my face for several days. Victoria would call me countless times a day. When I didn't answer, she would send me a stream of text messages. "Are you done with your tantrum? If you are, come home. I can pretend none of this ever happened." I ignored it. A couple of days later, her tone changed. "I know you don't like Ethan. I promise that once his mother gets better, I'll transfer him to a branch office and I won't see him again." I still didn't reply. Seeing that I was impervious to her efforts, Victoria stopped contacting me. Just when I thought she had come around and was ready to divorce, she sent me another text. "Honey, I saw the pink Hummer. Thank you for the gift. I love it. Can you please come home? I know you misunderstood about the loyalty points that day I took you shopping. Please come back, okay? I can explain." Reading this message, my brow furrowed tightly. I didn't reply to Victoria. Instead, I called Quentin Miller. "Did you give the Hummer back to Victoria?" Quentin sighed heavily. "No, I took it in for maintenance and was just showing off to the shop owner. I told him my buddy bought it for $5 million for his wife, but she made him angry, so he gave it to me instead. Who knew the owner knows both of you?" He turned around and told Victoria the whole story. Hearing Quentin's dramatic sighs, I couldn't help but laugh. "Don't worry about it. You can drive the car. I've already completed the paperwork. The car is officially yours now." Hearing this, Quentin's spirits lifted instantly. After chattering for a while, he suddenly asked, "Are you really sure about this? Is the divorce a done deal?" Quentin had been a witness to my relationship with Victoria from the very beginning. He knew how much I loved her. The fact that I was so resolute about the Hummer told him that I was dead set on getting a divorce. I took the ring off my ring finger and tossed it into a sewer grate. I'm sure. After hanging up, I received a message from Victoria. Sincere. If you want to hide from me, then hide. But I will not agree to a divorce. I rolled my eyes and immediately arranged to meet with Ethan Spencer. He sat down across from me, looking perfectly at ease. So, what did you want to see me about, Mr. Clark? I smiled and pushed a cup of coffee toward him. Just as I was about to speak, he added, Let me say this first, I will not leave Victoria. I smiled and agreed. That's exactly what I want. Sincere Clark, what on earth do you mean? I leaned back on the sofa and said cryptically, Don't be in such a hurry, Mr. Spencer. Are you interested in making a deal with me? 8. After a long period of the cold shoulder, Victoria finally couldn't take it anymore. Besides bombarding my phone, she started asking all our friends to find me. A friend described Victoria's state to me in vivid detail. Sincere, you have no idea how pitiful and vulnerable she looked. I almost couldn't bear to see it. Why don't you go back and have another good talk with her? Quentin retorted. Talk about what? Bullshit, she's playing the victim now, but where was this act before? Does she have any idea how much Sincere has done for her? Having her white moonlight around all the time, what man could stand that? I smiled and calmed him down. Don't be angry. I'm going home right now. Sincere Clark, what the hell? You're not going to back out of the divorce, are you? Are you a masochist? Quentin was utterly shocked. I raised an eyebrow. Of course not. Just you wait and see. I'd been away from home for half a month, but returning felt like it was only yesterday. I pushed the door open and froze. Everything I had thrown out was now back in its original place. I picked up a pair of vases and checked the bottom. They were indeed the ones I had discarded. What's going on? As I was wondering, Victoria came running down from the master bedroom on the second floor. When she saw me, her eyes lit up, and she rushed over. Sincere, you're finally willing to come home. You have no idea how much I've missed you while you were gone. I pushed her away and asked, Did you get all of this back? Victoria's eyes were fixed on me, filled with affection. Yes, it took a lot of effort to find them all at the dump. These are all gifts you gave me. How could I bear to let them be lost? I cringed. Victoria, be normal. You're acting like you've been possessed. Seeing my cold eyes, a flicker of disappointment crossed Victoria's face. She stood up straight and said coolly, If you don't want to reconcile, then why did you come back? I quickly retorted, I didn't want to come back. Just sign the divorce papers, and I'll be out of here immediately. Victoria pressed her lips together tightly. After a long moment, she said, Sincere Clark, dream on. I will not sign the divorce papers. The Donovan Group is mine, and it is indivisible with that. She quickly returned to the master bedroom, leaving only a gust of wind in her wake. I finally understood. Victoria's refusal to divorce me wasn't because she couldn't bear to part with me. She just couldn't stand the thought of the Donovan Group being split in two. So in her eyes, I was just an indispensable accessory. The only thing she truly cared about was her own self-interest. In that case, she couldn't blame me for playing dirty. I went to the bedroom on the first floor, locked the door, and called Ethan Spencer. I'll be back at the office tomorrow. Be ready. 9. The next day, I got up before dawn. I ordered breakfast delivery and ate in the dining room. When Victoria came downstairs and saw me, she suppressed her anger and said, Sincere Clark, did you forget there's another person in this house? I raised an eyebrow and said deliberately, What do you mean? She glanced at the single portion of food on the table and said unhappily, Nothing. Victoria slammed the door on her way out. I shrugged and continued my meal at a leisurely pace. If my lawyer friend hadn't told me that in a situation like mine, if the wife adamantly refuses a divorce, the court is unlikely to grant it, I would have filed a lawsuit against her long ago. I wouldn't have had to come back here and deal with her attitude. When I got to the office, I had just stepped out of the elevator when I heard employees gossiping. Miss Donovan's secret husband must be Ethan Spencer. Did you see the way she looked at him just now? I think so too. Ethan came in early this morning with breakfast and waited for her outside her office. It's so romantic. Not like Mr. Clark, who's always following Miss Donovan around like a lapdog. She barely even gives him the time of day. The sound of my leather shoes clicking on the floor finally alerted them to my presence. When they turned to look at me, I smiled and said, You were the ones bad-mouthing me at the retreat too, weren't you? You can go to HR and process your resignations now. The group was defiant and about to argue back. But Victoria spoke up from a short distance away. Since Mr. Clark has spoken, What are you waiting for? Her authority was palpable. The group finally walked away with their heads bowed. Ethan Spencer stood by Victoria's side and provocatively put his arm around her waist. Ms. Donovan said she wasn't feeling well and asked me to help her. I hope Mr. Clark doesn't mind. I glanced at the security camera and said calmly, "Of course not. Please, be my guest." Victoria looked very uncomfortable and seemed to want to say something several times. In the end, she walked past me with a cold expression. For the entire day, Ethan Spencer was by Victoria's side, never leaving her for a moment. The gossip among the employees grew louder. Victoria heard it too, but did nothing to stop it. She even tentatively asked me, in the interest of boosting employee morale, if we should offer more small perks. I found it laughable. We were in the middle of a Cold War, and I wasn't even in charge of employee logistics, yet she specifically sent me a message to ask. I knew exactly what she was really asking. She was asking, "Why don't you care anymore? Why aren't you refuting the employees' claims? Why aren't you coming to me in tears?" After all, I used to be the one most bothered by a clueless audience playing matchmaker for her with someone else. But today, the rumors were flying, and I remained unmoved. I replied, "Message received loud and clear. Milk tea for everyone is on its way." I ordered milk tea for the entire company in one go. I even thoughtfully delivered 2 cups to the CEO's office myself. When Victoria saw me finally enter her office voluntarily, she put on an air of authority and asked, "Did I give you permission to come in?" "You're right, Ms. Donovan. I'll get out of your hair, right now." I put down the milk tea, quickly closed the door, and left. On my way out, I gave Ethan another look. 10. I kept this up for a whole week. During that time, Victoria's attitude toward me grew increasingly impatient. I, on the other hand, found myself smiling more and more. Another week later, Ethan Spencer asked to meet me. He pushed a USB drive across the table to me and said smugly, "Turns out your wife really does prefer me." I plugged the USB drive into my laptop and opened the file. Under the dim light, on a pink, heart-shaped bed, 2 intertwined figures were passionately whispering words of love. I watched the entire video with a completely calm heart. After closing the laptop, I looked at Ethan with a smile. As Victoria Donovan's legal husband, seeing a video of you sleeping with her, I should probably beat you to death. Ethan's face changed drastically. "Sincere Clark, what do you mean you were the one who told me to seduce her? You said she was in love with me, and that if I successfully got evidence of her cheating on you with me, you would split the Donovan Group and her assets with me. Sincere Clark, you can't go back on your word." I looked at him with sharp eyes. "Ethan, what's the rush? I haven't finished speaking." As he watched me with panicked eyes, I continued, "However, I have to thank you. If it weren't for you, I would have only known that Victoria didn't love me, but I wouldn't have known how little self-respect she has. If it weren't for you, I wouldn't have been able to escape this misery so quickly. So I wish you and her all the best. You two should be locked together forever, so you don't come out and harm society." Of course, I didn't say that last part out loud. 11. I chose an auspicious day and asked Victoria to meet me at the restaurant where we first confessed our love. The calendar said it was a good day for all endeavors. So, when I was face to face with Victoria, I was smiling happily the whole time. I even thoughtfully poured her a glass of lemon water. Seeing me like this, her eyes lit up. "Sincere, you've finally come around. You're not mad at me anymore." Hearing her relieved tone, I smiled without saying a word. I ordered the same dishes we had eaten when we first got together. After all the food was on the table, Victoria's eyes brightened. "Sincere, is this?" I picked up some shredded potatoes with my chopsticks and placed them on her plate. "Try it. See if it still tastes the same." Victoria picked up her chopsticks and took a bite, then frowned. "The taste has changed. It's not as good as it used to be." I put down my chopsticks as well and nodded in agreement. It has indeed changed. After all, it's been 7 years. Nothing stays the same forever. Victoria didn't understand the hidden meaning in my words, but she was still very unhappy with what I said. "We haven't changed. We're still together, and we'll be together forever." As she made her heartfelt confession, her eyes sparkled. I was lost in thought for a moment. Honestly, I was surprised Victoria could still remember what we ate when we first confessed our love. We were so poor back then. We chose the most remote little restaurant and ordered the 3 cheapest home-style dishes, and it felt like the most delicious meal in the world. I once truly believed that I could be with her forever. I saw her as my faith. But reality gave me a resounding slap in the face. Victoria was not my faith. And nothing stays the same forever. Victoria had already pulled her chair over to sit next to me. But I took out my laptop from my briefcase, played the video on mute, and pushed it in front of her. "Victoria Donovan, please let me go. 12. Victoria froze, her body trembling uncontrollably. When she came to her senses, she slammed the laptop shut and looked at me in terror. "Sincere, let me explain, But when she saw the utter calmness in my eyes, she understood instantly. She asked softly, "Sincere Clark, was it you? Did you and Ethan set me up?" Her voice grew sharper. I had no intention of hiding it from her. I just raised an eyebrow. "Victoria Donovan, the fact is you cheated, and no one forced you to cheat. So what is there for you to argue about?" Receiving my confirmation, Victoria stood there, stunned. Her face was pale, her eyes empty and dull. "Why would you do this? Why?" She gradually moved closer to me, her eyes turning red as tears welled up. I pushed her away and moved to a different seat. "Victoria Donovan, you have the nerve to ask me why all these years have you ever treated me like a husband? In your eyes, am I just a money-making, obedient lapdog?" Victoria looked grief-stricken. "Sincere, I don't know what I did to give you that impression, but since you brought it up, it must be because I haven't done enough. Sincere, can you give me one more chance? Just one chance to correct my mistakes, please?" I shook my head. No. Victoria didn't expect me to be so resolute. The tears broke free like a dam. Passers-by stopped to stare at us. Victoria wanted to continue crying and begging me for a chance, but I didn't want to be a spectacle for others. I packed up my laptop and quickly walked out of the restaurant. Victoria chased after me, grabbing my hand and looking at me with desperation. "Sincere, we were in love for 7 years. I just made one mistake because I couldn't resist temptation. Can't you really give me one more chance for the sake of those 7 years?" More and more onlookers gathered, following us as we walked. My brow furrowed. Seeing that I couldn't shake her off, I pulled her into my car. Victoria seemed to see a glimmer of hope and quickly promised me, "Sincere, I will definitely change my ways." I pushed her away and said coldly, "I'm taking you to the lawyer's office now. If you don't agree to the divorce willingly, then we'll see each other in court." With the evidence I had, I was confident the divorce would be granted quickly this time. Victoria stared intently at my profile, realizing that more words were useless. She could only sit in the passenger seat and cry silently. 13. Victoria cried the entire way, giving me a headache. I pulled the car over to the side of the road, planning to get out for a smoke. Victoria thought I had changed my mind and quickly got out of the car, rushing toward me. "Honey, did you change your mind? Are you going to give me a chance?" I was utterly disgusted. I quickly pushed her away and said with disdain, "Victoria Donovan, there's a mirror in the car. You should take a look at your own pathetic state. Stop indulging in these delusional fantasies. Then why did you—" She took a slow step forward, not giving up. I stepped back, frowning at her. "Why did I pull over?" I popped open my cigarette case, took one out and lit it. Then I sneered, "Because your damn noise was giving me a headache, and also because I have no intention of dying in a car crash with you." As soon as I said that, Victoria stopped in her tracks. She stared at me for a long time before finally lowering her gaze and laughing at herself. Tears streamed down her face, and her shoulders trembled, but she cried silently. I watched her quietly, waiting for her to finish before handing her a few tissues. Fearing she would get the wrong idea again, I said bluntly, "Wipe your face. I don't want you getting my car dirty." Victoria's raised hand trembled for a moment, but she still took the tissues. I drove to the lawyer's office. The lawyer went over the divorce agreement with us. Victoria sat upright on the sofa, listening with lifeless eyes. Finally, the lawyer said we could sign. She mechanically picked up the pen beside her and wrote her name, stroke by stroke. After we set a date to finalize the divorce, we went our separate ways. In the rearview mirror, I could see her still standing there, crying and looking in my direction. But I felt nothing. A smirk played on my lips as I slammed on the gas and drove away. I had already taken care of all my belongings in the villa beforehand, so when Victoria called and told me to come back and pack my things, I just laughed and hung up without a word. We had already come to this point, and she was still trying to play tricks. I didn't believe it was because she loved me, so I wouldn't meet her privately before the divorce was official. The day to finalize the divorce finally arrived. I put on a custom-tailored suit I had bought a long time ago and waited for her at the courthouse early in the morning when Victoria arrived. A flicker of light flashed in her eyes when she saw me. She walked toward me and said softly, "Sincere, you look very handsome today." I curled my lips into a smile. Yes, a custom-tailored suit really makes a difference. Victoria understood what I meant. In the 7 years we were together, although I had a lot of savings, I never spent an extra penny on myself. All my major expenses were for her, and she never once thought of buying me a decent suit. Instead, she would say, "Men don't need to dress up. As long as you have clothes to wear, it's fine." But then she would turn around and order custom-made menswear for Ethan Spencer. The difference between being loved and not being loved was starkly clear, but from now on, all of that would be smoke of the past. Once I had the divorce certificate in my hand, I didn't even feel like saying goodbye. I got in my car and sped away. Victoria tried to call out to me to say something, but in the end, she could only turn away in disappointment. After the Donovan group was split in two, I sold my shares back to Victoria, and I took the money, enough to last 10 lifetimes, and started traveling the world. Later, I heard from a friend, Victoria put Quentin Miller in prison, accused him of rape. I chimed in, "Wasn't it consensual? That woman is ruthless." My friend sighed. "I don't know if it was consensual, but Victoria contracted an STD because of Ethan Spencer. She probably doesn't have much time left." I smiled and hung up the phone and headed toward the snow-capped mountains.